There are always signs. In this alternate reality, fans would later claim that Menglong was trying to tell us something, not loudly, not directly, but in fragments. Glances, pauses, words that felt out of place, smiles that didn't quite reach the eyes. At the time, no one called them warnings. Afterward, they called them evidence. It started with a sentence no one replayed until years later. During a promotional interview, lighthearted, joking, harmless, Menglong was asked where he saw himself in the future. He smiled, then paused, then said, quietly, "I feel like I'm running out of time, so I want to do things properly." The interviewer laughed. The audience clapped. The clip was archived and forgotten. But in this fictional timeline, that pause would later become infamous. Why pause at all? Why say running out of time when his career was still rising? Fans would later slow the footage down, analyzing his expression frame by frame. Not fear, not panic, but something worse: acceptance. In the final stretch of this imagined story, Menglong's choice of roles began to shift. No one noticed at first. He moved away from bright, hopeful characters and gravitated toward men haunted by secrets. Characters trapped by fate. Figures who knew the ending before the story began. One script, in particular, raised eyebrows after the fact. A character who leaves behind messages no one understands until he's gone. Sound familiar? At the time, critics called it artistic growth. Later, fans called it foreshadowing. This is where the internet really went to work. In this fictional universe, Menglong's final social media posts were not dramatic. No goodbyes. No apologies. No cryptic countdowns. Instead, they were too calm. A photo of a sunset. A caption that read, "Some endings are quieter than beginnings." A black and white image with no explanation. A simple line, "If you listen closely, silence speaks." At the time, fans called it poetic. After everything changed, they called it a farewell written in riddles. Every mystery has witnesses who speak too late. In this alternate reality, colleagues would later describe the same thing using different words. Asterisk more reflective. Asterisk quieter than usual. Asterisk kind, but distant. One anonymous crew member reportedly said, "It felt like he was wrapping things up. Like he didn't want loose ends." Another claimed he stayed behind after filming, standing alone on set, looking around as if memorizing the space. Why memorize a place you expect to return to? Unless you don't. The moment that shattered everything came from an old behind-the-scenes clip. Unedited. Unscripted. Barely noticed. Menglong, laughing with staff, suddenly turned serious and said, "If one day I disappear, don't believe everything you hear." The room went quiet. Someone laughed it off. The clip ended. Years later, that sentence would circulate like wildfire. Disappear? Not leave. Not retire. Disappear. Fans would ask the same question again and again. Disappear from what? From where? From whom? Skeptics in this fictional world argued. People say things like this all the time. You're reading meaning into nothing. But believers countered with something chilling. One sign is coincidence. 2 signs are curiosity. 5 signs are a pattern. And patterns demand attention. In his last public appearance in this alternate timeline, Menglong wore something fans couldn't ignore later. All black. No accessories. No bright styling. When asked if he was okay, he smiled and said, "I'm at peace." At peace. Not happy. Not excited. Not hopeful. At peace. For some, that word was comforting. For others, it felt like the calm before a storm no one wanted to imagine. Here's the cruel truth about warnings. They rarely feel urgent in the moment. We understand them backward. We connect the dots after the picture is gone. In this fictional mystery, Menglong didn't scream for help. He whispered in art. He hinted in silence. He spoke in metaphors the world wasn't ready to translate. If someone leaves signs, but no one understands them in time, were they really signs at all? Or just fragments of a story we desperately want to explain? In this imagined timeline, the real shift didn't begin with officials or headlines. It began with fans. Late at night, headphones on, rewatching old clips at 0.25x speed. Someone noticed something small, almost ridiculous. Menglong blinked twice, deliberately, before answering a question. Not a nervous blink. Not fatigue. A pattern. Once, nothing. Twice, maybe stress. But then fans found it again. And again. And again. Always before sensitive questions. Always before he changed the subject. The comment that started it all read, "Why does he blink like he's signaling something?" No one took it seriously. Until others started counting. Numbers are harmless. Until they aren't. In this fictional mystery, fans noticed Menglong repeatedly referenced the same numbers in different contexts. Asterisk a hotel room number in a vlog. Asterisk a timestamp he casually mentioned. Asterisk a post uploaded at the exact same minute multiple times. 11:27. Over and over. One fan joked it was superstition. Another replied, or it's a marker. That's when things got uncomfortable. Because when fans lined up his appearances, 11:27 appeared again, hidden in reflections, background screens, even a rehearsal clock visible for half a second. A coincidence? The internet doesn't like coincidences. This is where the theory exploded. During a rehearsal clip, barely 15 seconds long, Menglong wore a jacket with a stitched symbol on the inner lining. Not a brand, not a logo, a symbol, a circle, broken at the bottom, with a short vertical line through the gap. Fans froze the frame. Zoomed in. Enhanced contrast. Someone finally said what everyone was thinking. That's not decoration. That's intentional. Theories flooded in. Asterisk a personal sigil. Asterisk a warning sign. Asterisk a mark meaning unfinished. Asterisk a symbol for escape. No official explanation ever came, because in this fictional world, he never explained anything again. In one interview, Menglong was asked what kind of music he listened to when alone. He answered with a smile. Songs that sound calm but aren't. That answer didn't age well. Fans went back and found a playlist he once shared briefly before deleting. The titles alone were unsettling. Asterisk, no way back. Asterisk, silent signal. Asterisk, if you're listening. Asterisk, end credits. End credits. Why would someone in the middle of their life listen to something called end credits on repeat? This detail gave rise to hundreds of breakdown videos. In multiple appearances, Menglong made a subtle gesture while listening, not speaking. Thumb pressed against the ring finger. Again. And again. And again. In this alternate reality, fans connected it to an obscure signaling method used in high-stress environments, a silent indicator of distress. Was it real? No one could prove it, but no one could unsee it either. Fans swear there are two different smiles, before and after. Earlier footage shows warmth, ease, spontaneity. Later footage? The smile arrives late, leaves early, never touches the eyes. One comment went viral. That's not happiness. That's performance. And that word, performance, became central to the mystery. What if everything after a certain point wasn't living but acting? Every legend needs a missing piece. In this fictional universe, there was an interview that aired once, then vanished. Clips survived only as low-quality screen recordings. In it, Menglong said something that made the host visibly uncomfortable. Some stories are safer if they're never finished. The host laughed nervously, changed the subject. The clip was never officially reposted, and that absence only made it louder. At this point, the community fractured. Camp 1. You're romanticizing normal behavior. This is dangerous thinking. Camp 2. Ignoring patterns is how warnings get missed. Neither side could fully win, because the signs, real or imagined, were already embedded in memory. The most chilling discovery came last. A still image from an old photo shoot resurfaced. Behind Menglong, barely visible on a wall, were faint chalk markings. 3 short lines. 1 long line. 3 short lines. In this fictional timeline, fans froze. It didn't need translation. Everyone knew. SOS. If someone leaves symbols everywhere, but no one stops to decode them, does responsibility belong to the sender, or the world that refused to listen? Every mystery eventually stops being about symbols and starts being about people. In this imagined timeline, the first cracks appeared not in interviews, but behind closed doors. A former staff member, speaking anonymously years later, claimed he started asking questions. Not dramatic ones. Quiet ones. Questions like, why are contracts written this way? Why can't I see certain documents? Why does everyone avoid that topic? Nothing explosive. Nothing illegal. Just curious. And curiosity in the wrong place can be dangerous. Fans noticed something strange before any theories existed. Menglong's longtime manager, once always present, suddenly disappeared from public view. No farewell post. No announcement. No replacement introduction. Just gone. When fans asked questions, responses were vague. Scheduling changes. Creative differences. Nothing unusual. But in this fictional universe, insiders would later claim something else. The manager had warned him, and after that warning, they were no longer seen together. This detail shook the fandom. A makeup artist who worked with Menglong posted a single sentence months after everything changed. Some truths cost more than silence. No names. No hashtags. No explanation. The post stayed up for less than 24 hours. Screenshots lived forever. When fans asked what it meant, no reply. Ever. In one behind-the-scenes recording, never officially released, Menglong was heard saying something quietly to a producer. It wasn't dramatic. Just one sentence. Don't put that in the cut. The producer replied. Why? Menglong hesitated. Then said, because it'll cause trouble. The clip ends there. No context. No explanation. Just the suggestion that something existed and was deliberately erased. In this alternate reality, a close friend of Menglong did something fans found disturbing afterward. They unfollowed every agency account, every entertainment outlet, almost every mutual contact. Their bio changed to a single line. I said what I could. Within weeks, the account went private. Speculation exploded. What did they say? Who did they say it to? Why stop now? No answers came. One rumor dominated forums. A voice note, supposedly sent, never opened. In this fictional timeline, someone claimed Menglong sent an audio message late at night, longer than usual. When asked about it later, the recipient reportedly said, I wish I had listened sooner. Nothing else. No leak. No proof. Just regret hanging in the air like smoke. Years after the fact, one interviewer posted a quiet apology. No names mentioned. Just this. I should have pushed harder when he paused. I thought I was being polite. That line devastated fans. Because pauses are invitations. And sometimes, silence is a door waiting to be opened. When fans lined it all up, a pattern emerged. Asterisk a manager who vanished. Asterisk a friend who went silent. Asterisk a staff member who posted once and never again. Asterisk clips removed. Asterisk interviews lost. Asterisk questions unanswered. One viral comment said it best. It's not just that he stopped talking. It's that everyone around him did too. Here's what made part 3 especially chilling. No one screamed. No one accused. No one exposed anything directly. Instead, people. Asterisk avoided topics. Asterisk spoke in metaphors. Asterisk posted vague regrets. Asterisk disappeared quietly. That's not chaos. That's containment. In one surviving clip, Menglong said something that only made sense later. People think danger is loud. It isn't. At the time, it sounded philosophical. Afterward, it sounded like experience. By the end of this fictional part 3, fans faced a disturbing idea. What if he wasn't trying to expose something? What if he was trying to survive it? And what if the signs, the symbols, the silence weren't clues for the public, but negotiations with forces we never saw? That's how every great mystery hides. The final day didn't arrive with thunder. No chaos. No visible collapse. In this imagined timeline, Menglong's last 24 hours began like any other. Morning light. A routine schedule. Messages sent without urgency. If you didn't know what came next, you'd call it an ordinary day. That's what makes it terrifying. Fans later discovered a short text he sent early that morning. Today's going to be long, but it's okay. Not emotional. Not dramatic. Just resigned. Why say it's okay unless you're convincing yourself? Here's where things start to fracture. In this fictional reconstruction, Menglong attended a meeting that officially never happened. No photos. No calendar entry. No public acknowledgement. But multiple insiders later hinted at the same thing. Asterisk a closed-door discussion. Asterisk phones left outside. Asterisk voices raised once, then lowered. One person reportedly said, "He walked in confident. He walked out quiet." That detail haunted fans. Confidence doesn't usually evaporate without reason. A small detail. But fans obsess over small details. Menglong ordered food he liked. Paid for it. Barely touched it. Why does that matter? Because appetite disappears when the mind is somewhere else. And wherever his mind went that day, it never came back. Phone records, real or rumored in this alternate reality, show one missed call. He never called back. The person later said, "I assumed he was busy. I didn't want to push." That sentence destroyed fans. Because pushing sometimes saves lives. Security footage allegedly showed Menglong walking alone. No assistant. No phone in hand. No headphones. Just walking. Slowly. As if he was buying time. Or saying goodbye to streets he'd never see again. This is one of the most debated moments. In this fictional universe, a handwritten page was found later. Not a goodbye letter. Not instructions. Just fragmented lines. Asterisk. I did what I could. Asterisk. This wasn't the plan. Asterisk. Please don't turn this into noise. No signature. Some said it wasn't meant to be read. Others said it was meant to be misunderstood. The last known image taken that day wasn't dramatic. No tears. No darkness. Just a reflection in glass. Menglong looking not at the camera, but past it. Fans noticed something unsettling. He wasn't looking afraid. He was looking decided. One message sent to him that evening went unanswered. It read, "Are you safe?" That was it. 3 words that would echo forever. No more messages. No more activity. No more signals. Just silence. The kind that doesn't feel like rest. The kind that feels final. Skeptics say, people disappear every day. Not everything is a mystery. But believers point to this. Too many unanswered calls. Too many erased moments. Too many people who hesitated to speak. And one detail that refuses to go away. In the last 24 hours, he reached out to no one for help. Almost as if help was no longer an option. Here's the theory that kept fans awake at night. What if the last day wasn't panic? What if it was resolution? Not despair. Not chaos. But the end of a long internal negotiation. Up until now, fans had argued over signs, symbols, silence. But Part 5 introduced a theory so disturbing that even the most devoted supporters hesitated to share it publicly. Not because it sounded crazy, but because it sounded possible. The theory wasn't about tragedy. It was about choice. This theory begins with one unsettling idea. What if Menglong wasn't reacting to events? What if he was responding to a conclusion already delivered to him? Not fate. Not superstition. Information. Something learned. Something confirmed. Something that made resistance meaningless. In this fictional universe, fans believed the final months weren't about fear. They were about preparation. Supporters noticed something that didn't fit a breakdown narrative. He didn't spiral. He didn't lash out. He didn't self-destruct publicly. Instead, he became polite, careful, minimal, detached. One fan wrote, he wasn't losing control. He was regaining it. That idea terrified people. because control suggests agency. This is where the name came from. Fans began calling it the containment theory. The belief that whatever Menglong encountered couldn't be exposed, fought, or escaped. Only contained. And the price of containment was silence. Supporters pointed to asterisk his refusal to explain, asterisk his vague language, asterisk his request not to turn this into noise, asterisk the disappearance of others around him. The idea? That noise would make things worse. This is the detail that chilled everyone. In this fictional timeline, Menglong stopped reaching out not because he had no one, but because involving others might endanger them. One viral comment read, "He wasn't alone. He was isolating on purpose." Isolation not as despair, but as protection. An old quote resurfaced and spread like wildfire. Some battles are won by not letting them spread. Fans stared at that sentence for days, because it reframed everything. What if speaking out wouldn't save him, but would cost everyone else? The theory followed a brutal logic. 1. He learned something irreversible. 2. Speaking causes damage beyond himself. 3. Silence limits the fallout. 4. Calm prevents escalation. 5. Distance protects others. Under this theory, the signs weren't cries for help. They were controlled leaks. Enough to be seen. Not enough to explode. Not everyone accepted it. Some fans said, "This turns him into a martyr. That's not fair." Others argued, "You're projecting meaning onto tragedy." And they had a point, because this theory doesn't comfort. It burdens. It suggests he carried something alone, and chose to. Here's what finally silenced debates. In this fictional universe, fans noticed something devastating. In his final weeks, Menglong stopped using the word future. He spoke in asterisk if, asterisk someday, asterisk in another version, never when, never soon. One supporter wrote, "It's like he stepped outside his own timeline." The darkest interpretation of all. What if the reason the truth was never officially clarified was because clarity would cause harm? Not to his image, not to institutions, but to real people. And what if silence wasn't imposed, but chosen? Because if this theory is true, even fictionally, then the story isn't about mystery. It's about sacrifice without recognition. A decision made alone. A burden carried quietly. A price paid without explanation. And that's harder to accept than any conspiracy. By the time Part 6 begins, fans in this imagined universe had stopped asking what happened. They were asking something far more disturbing. Why does no one seem allowed to explain it? Not denial. Not outrage. Just a carefully maintained quiet. Press statements said very little. Interviews avoided specifics. Questions were redirected, softened, or ignored. It wasn't chaos. It was orderly silence. Fans began analyzing official responses the way they once analyzed symbols. Certain phrases appeared again and again. Asterisk, out of respect. Asterisk, not appropriate to speculate. Asterisk, private matter. Asterisk, we ask for understanding. Understanding of what, exactly? In this fictional timeline, supporters noticed something chilling. No one ever said the truth would come later. They said it wasn't needed. One journalist tried anyway. In a rare, now legendary interview, a reporter pushed too hard, asking direct questions without metaphor. The result? The interview aired once, then disappeared. Soon after, the journalist quietly left the industry. No scandal, no accusation, just absence. Fans didn't miss the message. In this fictional universe, a strange shift occurred online. Posts asking detailed questions began to be labeled as asterisk insensitive, asterisk harmful speculation, asterisk disrespectful. At first, that seemed reasonable. But then fans noticed something odd. Even neutral timelines were discouraged. Even factual reconstructions were shut down. One viral comment read, "Since when is curiosity treated like cruelty?" The most unsettling idea in Part 6? That there are people who already know the full story. Not guessing. not theorizing, knowing, and choosing every day not to say it. Fans began to believe the silence wasn't caused by confusion, but by consensus. An unspoken agreement that the truth carried a cost no one wanted to pay. This is where Part 6 becomes terrifying. Supporters developed what they called the damage radius theory. The belief that revealing the full truth wouldn't just affect one name, but many agencies, careers, families, people who never asked to be involved. Under this theory, silence wasn't about protection of power. It was about minimizing fallout. Normally, time loosens tongues. But in this fictional timeline, time did the opposite. Years passed. Still nothing. No leaks. No confessions. No tell-all memoirs. Fans realized something chilling. Time wasn't eroding the silence. It was reinforcing it. Eventually, something shifted. Supporters stopped saying, "The truth will come out." They started saying, "The truth already exists. We just won't hear it." That realization broke something. Not anger, not outrage, but hope. In this alternate reality, fans began accepting an unofficial conclusion. That some stories are sealed not by force, but by consequence. That opening them causes more harm than closure. And that the silence itself is the message. The most haunting idea of Part 6? That Menglong may have known this outcome. That he understood the truth would not be clarified. That history would stay incomplete. And that he accepted that reality long before anyone else did. One line from earlier suddenly felt final. "Please don't turn this into noise." By the time Part 7 begins, something had changed. People stopped digging for leaks. Stopped hunting insiders. Stopped waiting for announcements. Instead, they did something simpler and far more devastating. They went back to the beginning. Because sometimes the last message isn't hidden. It's repeated. Across interviews, appearances, and casual conversations in this imagined timeline, Menglong repeated variations of the same idea. People only hear what they're ready to hear. At first, it sounded philosophical. By the end, it felt like instruction. What if the message was never about what happened, but about how to listen? Fans revisited one of his lesser-known performances. A quiet character, minimal dialogue, often misunderstood. In the final scene, the character says, "I left everything where it belonged. If you're looking for answers, you're standing on them." That line had gone unnoticed for years, until suddenly it didn't. What struck fans hardest wasn't complexity. It was restraint. No dramatic confessions. No coded manifestos. No explosive reveals. Just repeated themes. Asterisk silence. Asterisk choice. Asterisk responsibility. Asterisk consequence. In hindsight, fans began to believe the final message wasn't hidden in symbols or numbers. It was embedded in consistency. That sentence returned one last time. Not as a plea, but as a boundary. Fans started interpreting it differently. Not don't talk, but don't distort. Not don't question, but don't weaponize. Maybe the message wasn't to expose, but to understand without destroying. This is where Part 7 becomes almost painful. Supporters proposed one final idea, that the message wasn't meant to change the world. It was meant to stop it from spiraling. That in a culture addicted to outrage and spectacle, the final act of control was stillness. Something rare happened in this fictional universe. Theories slowed. Comment sections softened. Instead of arguments, people began writing things like, "Maybe listening is enough. Maybe he trusted us to be careful. Maybe the message is to let this rest." For the first time, the mystery didn't feel hungry. It felt complete. What if there was never meant to be a reveal? What if the final message was, asterisk, you don't need every answer. Asterisk, you don't need a villain. Asterisk, you don't need closure to show respect. What if meaning doesn't come from solving, but from how we carry what we don't know? Fans often imagine the story ending the same way, not with headlines, not with explanations, but with a single frame. Menglong mid-pause, looking thoughtful, about to speak, and choosing not to.